Hello everybody, happy Thanksgiving. Today we're talking about the Lost Cosmonauts conspiracy theory. The Lost Cosmonauts, or the Phantom Cosmonauts conspiracy theory, states that the Soviet Union during the space race in the 1960s covered up numerous deaths of numerous cosmonauts, and that the Soviet Union sent people into space prior to the first man being sent into space in 1961, and that these people died in space, and the Soviet covered it up. And conspiracy theory also states that they sent at least one woman into space before the official first woman who got sent into space in 1963, and that they covered her up because of her death, and that this continued on and on. Now, yes, the Soviet Union did actually cover up a few things, but after the fall of the Soviet Union in 1991, the Soviet Union declassified these few actually covered up things. Though some people believe that there are more deaths that are covered up, and as the Soviet Union does not want to admit. The biggest evidence for this is the Giulio Gordila recordings, two Italian brothers who owned an amateur radio station in Italy, who claimed to have recorded the deaths of numerous cosmonauts when either re-entering orbit through orbit or literally being bounced off of orbit and going into deep space. Pretty spooky, right? I mean, it took a deep space. Stuff. But of course, are these real? What do you think? Last two ones were real. Why and only now? It ain't. But yeah, we're gonna be talking about them. We're gonna be talking about those recordings. How they're not, can't be, they just can't be real. But yeah, so let's get on into that now. Now, the most famous evidence for the lost cosmonaut conspiracy theory is the Giudica Gordigli brothers, who, as I mentioned, claim to have recorded numerous cosmonaut deaths. They have claimed to have recorded 9 cosmonaut deaths between May of 1960 and April of 1964. Now, the two actually did record real events. They recorded Sputnik 1 and they recorded Sputnik 2, as they recorded the heartbeat of the dog Laika, which was on board. And though now the first one I want to talk about is one from February of 1961, one that some people use as more definitive proof. As in February 61, they recorded what they believed to be a cosmonaut suffocated to death while on re-entry. And now, shortly after this alleged recording, the Soviet Union announced that one of their rocket ships had burned up and been destroyed. Now, they never said whether or not it was manned or not. Now, this could easily be explained as them referring to the Venera 1, which was a rocket ship the Russians had sent in February 1961 to Venus, though it ended up burning up. Now, this is most likely what they were referring to when the Russians said that one of the rockets burned up. Another one people often speak about is from May of 1963, which features allegedly Russian woman in her rocket ship burning up as she re-enters the atmosphere, as she describes seeing flames and that her cabin feels hot. Though many people believe that this recording is just a hoax, as many people state that she makes grammatical errors that a native Russian wouldn't make, and her accent doesn't sound like a real Russian person's accent. And this and many more, most people believe that is simply a hoax. Now, another one from November 1960 is supposedly an SOS signal sent by a spacecraft which ended up flying out of orbit and accidentally flew into deep space on accident. Now, many people believe that this would be impossible, as Russian rockets at the time didn't have big enough tanks and couldn't hold enough gas and fuel for them to be able to go off into space and leave the atmosphere, as the rockets at the time just simply weren't big enough to hold enough fuel to be able to accidentally leave orbit of Earth and go off into deep space. Many people also point out that it's strange that only these two brothers at an amateur radio station picked these recordings up, and no other radio stations picked them up, as other radio stations picked up Sputnik 1, Sputnik 2, and the other real space events. And so many find it strange that only these guys picked it up. And of course, some, such as the May 1963 ones, would be literally impossible, as she was re-entering the atmosphere, and when someone re-enters the atmosphere, they aren't able to communicate with ground due to things that happen and take place when re-entering the atmosphere. And many people point out these people in these recordings constantly make grammatical errors that Russians would make, and even use improper cosmonaut language and speak and use improper code words and stuff, and just don't sound like real recordings. And these are mainly dismissed as simple hoaxes. But it's a pretty interesting story, wouldn't you all say? I think it is. I like these stories. Alrighty, folks, that was the Lost Cosmonauts. Another fake conspiracy theory. What am I going to be talking about again? What about we're going to be talking about tomorrow? I'm going to be talking about the Black Knight satellite tomorrow. All-time classic. I don't know what I'm going to talk about the day after that. I'll figure it out. But yeah. So, I'm sorry to get the video on time yesterday. Things got a bit messy. I had a lot of things to do yesterday. I did a lot of things yesterday. I wasn't able to make the video. But yeah. So I got it out today at least. So and happy Thanksgiving and all, because today's Turkey Day. I think the Mexican Thanksgiving parade is probably already over for the time. I'm recording this at 9:30 a.m. If you're all wondering, it's 9:30 a.m. where I am right now, as of now. But anyways, so yeah, happy Thanksgiving, gobble gobble. Bye, have a nice time.